This is Vince Russo's The Brand.
AlternaTV.
Hello once again everybody, I am your host Brandon Stransky. This is another edition of AlternaTV. This week we're going to be doing something a little differently. As some of you may have heard, John Dunsworth, the actor who portrayed the character Mr. Lahey in the TV show Trailer Park Boys, passed away a couple weeks ago from a sudden and unexpected illness. And I decided I was going to make the next episode of AlternaTV be a tribute to him by doing a review of the episode of Trailer Park Boys called I Am the Liquor, which is, of course, probably his most famous line that he has said in the entire series. Definitely one of his most memorable ones. It was kind of, and I apologize for how long it's taken to get it out. I was racking my head going back and forth trying to decide how I wanted to do this. And with it being Halloween today, the date of this recording, I figured, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and do it this way. I'm going to do the review while trying my best to portray the character of Mr. Lahey. Not guaranteeing anything special or fantastic, just trying to do something entertaining, something that I think he would have liked, you know, just trying to be entertaining and just funny and, you know, have a good time with you guys doing this review and tribute to him. Just a heads up, there will be spoilers, heavy spoilers of not just this episode, but episodes that will come before that and after this episode. So just, you know, that's a big heads up. So if you don't want to be spoiled, wait till after you've seen those episodes, or wait till after you've seen the entirety of Season 5 before watching this. What? Oh, people I gotta share this house with. Anyway, so, and I'm sorry, probably I'm not really in costume. I couldn't find a button-down khaki shirt to wear, unfortunately. But I do have this. Since I don't really drink, let's go ahead and pretend that this orange soda is actually, throughout the, as I'm doing this review, let's pretend that this is, you know, for the sake of argument, for the sake of character, that this is alcohol. It is liquor. So, let's go ahead and get the review started. Gotta get into character here. Here we go. So SwearNet decides that they want me to do this review of this episode of one of the old from season 5. This was called I Am the Liquor, you know, because I am the liquor. You know what? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's bad. That's bad. You know what? I'm not gonna do that. Sorry, I'm just not. For some reason I just can't feel myself getting into the character, so I'm just going to go ahead and do a straight up review.
Jabron.
If I find myself falling into that character, I might throw a few of his, you know, Lahey-isms in there, but doing the full review in character, I do not have the capabilities of doing it, so I'm not gonna you know, screw that up and tarnish that by doing that. So let's just go ahead and get it started. The episode opens with Ricky waking up, giving us a recap of what happened last episode with the car getting impounded, his daughter getting arrested while driving it, and of course his dad being in prison, and the hash driveway. Yes, the big storyline arc of this season is they steal a bunch of hash, turn it into a driveway, and sit on it until they find someone to sell it to. I know, you have to watch that season. It's probably some of the craziest stuff they did. So anyway, yeah, Ricky wakes up, kind of gives us a recap of what's going on, and then he talks about the something that had been kind of building throughout the season of him complaining about his arm, his chest hurting, which actually builds up to him having a heart attack in the next episode, which Lahey ends up saving his life on, you know, which is a major character turn for him. Which actually ends up leading to a babyface turn at the end of Season 6 for Lahey. Oops, did I spoil that? My bad. So Ricky, of course, knows that he's got to get his family out of jail. They sold some of that. They managed to sell some of the hash at a school that Ricky got a job at to make a little bit of cash. And Ricky wants to use it to bail his dad and get his daughter out of prison. But Julian is not letting him use the car that he stole, that he now possesses, to go get that done, unfortunately. So Ricky has to go to Bubbles, get the go-kart from him to go pick up Trinity from prison and Child Protective Services. And then in a pretty funny scene, Ricky, of course, does not know how to drive a go-kart worth crap, even though he was one who originally bought it for Bubbles. Ends up crashing it. We get a scene from there, and then we go into our opening credits before we get back to Ricky's already gone. We're seeing Julian and Bubbles now. They're about to go get Ricky's car out of impound, and Julian starts explaining about how he's going to use that money instead of using the money to get Ray out of prison. He's going to use the money to try to buy his trailer back from Lahey, who is now living in it since the boys were in prison at the end of Season 4. And then Bubbles, of course, is asking who's going to watch the driveway while we're gone. Julian does a dog whistle, signals Corey and Trevor, which is a funny thing they've been going on, where Julian's been training them like dogs to try to get them to work better. Leaves them in charge of the driveway. And then we see Lahey working out his plan to try to get the boys sent in prison. He hasn't quite figured out what's going on yet. He knows they're up to something. He's still trying to figure it out. He's getting close, and he has a plan. And their plan is, of course, to use a video game system that Randy just bought, and of course new video games, to try to get Corey and Trevor to come over and, you know, sweet talk them into giving them some information. And he's basically his plan is to try to, rather than try to stop the crime and craziness going on in the park, he's going to let it happen and let the boys kind of shoot themselves in the foot rather than just keep getting the cops involved. Next scene we have Ricky arriving at the courthouse. He encounters some of the workers outside. They help him with the go-kart. He offers them a joint. They, of course, you know, like, we're not touching that. And then we go to we have Ricky and Bubbles arriving at arriving at the impound lot to get Ricky's car out. They managed to get that done with Julian taking the money to run off to go pay Lahey, and Bubbles going to prison to go let Ray know he's going to be stuck in there for a little bit longer. Let's see. And then we get back to Corey and Trevor sitting at the driveway. Randy arrives, makes the offer to come play video games, drink beer, and eat ice cream with them. Of course, what's their nuts? Corey and Trevor they initially refuse until and these guys were great with their characters, especially Corey, where he they're like debating whether or not they should do it or not, and then they're like, oh wait, instead of watching the driveway, we can go keep an eye on those two while getting drunk and playing video games. Which is, of course, the logic they use, which shows which is great, which is exactly the kind of logic their characters would use, which is, you know, great writing, great acting. And then we get to Ricky in court, where he explains the situation of why he wants to, of what happened and wanting to get his daughter out, which was a... I can't do this scene justice. It's absolute brilliance. This is a guy who knows his character, knows how to play his character. Brilliant. The next scene we see Corey and Trevor at Lahey's playing the video game. They don't get too far into it before Julian arrives, offering Lahey the $7,500 to get the trailer. But Lahey, of course, says, you know, well, the price is $12,500. Julian comes up with $7,500 and says, if you want this trailer, you have to, if you want me to pull the sign up, pull the for sale sign out and unlist it, you have to have the money by the end of the day, because if somebody comes by with the full price, well, I have to give it to them now, wouldn't I? Julian's clearly getting distressed by this. Lahey knows it. He knows exactly what he's doing. It's a shit snare, bud. Gotta get him right in the shit snare. I'm gonna encourage it. I'm gonna encourage all the crap in the park. I'm gonna lead them right where I want them to do. Catch him in a shit snare, Randy. Catch him in a shit snare.
Vince, let's go.
Jeff, here's why this show sucks off the bat. I didn't even care. Vince McMahon sucks, bro. Do you understand? You shoot an angle, that's the shit. They're pussies, bro.
Bust somebody's ass open. You just took all this guy's flavor away. He really does suck as a heel. I can't stand this guy.
Oh, yeah, bro, you're bitter. Get your shit together. So freaking illogical. Are you freaking kidding me, bro? And I'll be honest with you.
And then, of course, once Julian leaves, Corey and Trevor leave. This scene was kind of wonky for me. It really felt awkward, because why would he send Corey and Trevor out of there when Corey and Trevor just comes right back in, and then he manages to trick Trevor, and then Lahey manages to trick Trevor into telling him about the hash driveway, how the hash was stolen from Cyrus and his buddies, how Julian stole his buddy's car, stole their guns. So then, basically, that leads to Lahey starting to figure out the plan now. He's going to use this information to try to eliminate the boys. We get back to the driveway. Julian and Bubbles are there. They whistle for Corey and Trevor, where they reveal that Trevor ends up blaming Corey for it, and they revealing to Lahey how they have the about the hash driveway, and Julian proceeds to suspend both guys for 3 months. And Lahey begins to lay out his plan to Randy of how they're going to get the boys. And essentially the plan is to, they're not going to call the cops this time. They have all the information, even though they have all the evidence and information that they need, they're not calling the cops. They're actually going to do something much worse. And the plan is to use the money that Julian had given Lahey for the trailer to bail out Cyrus and his gang, with the intention of causing a confrontation. And it goes into like this whole thing where Randy's getting worried that because Lahey's definitely going off the deep end, because the plan is he's expecting Cyrus and his gang and the boys to all kill each other. That's essentially what he says, and which leads to the very famous line, which is the title of this episode. Randy asks Lahey, after Lahey lays out the plan, Randy asks him, "Mr. Lahey, is that you talking, or the liquor?" And here's his response, "Randy." I am the liquor. And he also used a couple quotes in here that I like, or a quote in here that I like to use. Sorry. I like to use a lot because, well, you can apply it to a lot of what's going on in the world right now, especially in our country. The quote is, what was the quote? "The shit puppets. You gotta make them angry, but they're not angry at us, Rand. They gotta be angry at other shit puppets." I don't know. I just really like that quote. I like using it because it's actually pretty relevant to what's going on today. Let's see here. Ricky comes back home with Trinity after purchasing bikes for her, so she doesn't have to drive around the park anymore. And then Lucy comes out of the trailer and explains to Ricky how Ray had called from prison and told them about how Julian had been screwing him over the entire season by not bailing him out and keeping him locked up in there, which pisses Ricky off immensely to the point where he wants nothing to do with the hash, wants nothing to do with Julian anymore. He basically just wants to end that friendship. Let's see. And then we have Bubbles and Julian returning to the returning to the driveway, where Lahey arrives, asking, "Hey, any of you boys wonder where a fella can get a hunk of hash, could ya?" And, of course, Julian's like, "Okay, cut the BS. What do you want? Have you called the cops yet?" "Oh, no. I've done something way worse than call the cops. Cheers, gentlemen." And leaving both Julian and Bubbles to wonder exactly what it was that he did that could have been worse than calling the cops. And then we get a next scene of Corey and Trevor fighting over whose fault it was that got suspended. And then Ricky arrives. And what's going on with these three throughout this season is, at the end of Season 4, Corey and Trevor were responsible for transporting the dope that got them all the money. Like, they were supposed to have a ton of money at the end of Season 4. It was Corey and Trevor's job to transport the dope and sell it at the Snoop Dogg concerts. And they did it. They succeeded in that. But when it was time for them to buy the park for Ricky and Julian with that money, they ended up screwing up, and Barb Lahey stole it from them and used the money to get the park out of the financial situation that Ricky had gotten into during Season 4. And Rick and Corey and Trevor had gotten a peace bond against Ricky, which is essentially like a restraining order over here in the States, where basically he couldn't come within 500 feet of them, otherwise, he'd go to jail. But during this scene, they reconcile all that, and of course, you guys, if you've watched it, you've seen the whole gimmick with Corey and Trevor. They always put their hands up looking for a high five. Nobody ever gives it to him, but this situation, though, Ricky, high fives them, good little payoff there. They reconcile with each other, and they, decide they're going to work together to try to get their third, or get Ricky's third of the hash that he rightfully has. They get to, and then as Bubbles and Julian are trying to break up the driveway and the hash, Corey and Trevor, along with Ricky, show up, and they start fighting over the hash, fighting over who owns Corey and Trevor. And then eventually Bubbles, of course, always being the voice of reason, breaks it up. They explain, why Julian did what he did, why, how Ricky has a right to feel the way he does about Julian doing that. They have their reconciliation. And then, like, okay, what do you do about Lahey knowing about the hash? He's going to call the cops. And they're like, and then they say, well, and then they end it with the, Ricky asks, what could be worse than calling the cops? And then we have the show ending with the scene of Cyrus and his boys being let out of jail. End episode. So we got a great, good writing there. Characters staying true to themselves like they usually do for the most part. They're usually very, very good about that. Hooks, all the stories we got Russo that have been playing out throughout the season. Some, the stories getting tied up for the finale, for the big showdown coming up, and we even have the cliffhanger, the great cliffhanger of, what could be worse than Lahey calling the cops on us? Oh shit, here comes Cyrus, Ted, Dennis, and Terry, and they're pissed. So, yeah, and with a great cliffhanger like that, yeah. There it is. The Trailer Park Boys, Season 5, Episode 9, I Am the Liquor, with the famous line by John Dunsworth portraying Jim Lahey. Cheers, bud. We're gonna miss you, man. Thank you for all the entertainment you've provided us. Thank you for just being a wonderful person. Rest in peace, John Dunsworth. We miss you.
This is Vince Russo's The Brand.